When Bogdan met Vasilina, he thought he had finally found someone who would bring order to his life. But what happens when trust is masked by ulterior motives? This is a story about love that can come at too high a price. Love with a catch. In every big city, there are hidden corners where people's destinies intertwine so closely that sometimes it's hard to distinguish chance from fate. In these places, amidst the aroma of coffee, the sound of rain tapping against the windows, and the weary faces of passers-by, stories are born that could easily become the script for a film, if only someone wanted to hear them. Bogdan always considered himself a lucky person. He knew how to earn, how to spend, and how to live in a way that made each day different from the last. His life seemed light and vibrant, like the flash of a camera he had recently bought, simply because he wanted it. He didn't save, didn't make long-term plans, and didn't think about the future. For him, there was only the here and now. And this now was always rich, noisy, and full of meetings, trips, and new experiences. Alina, his younger sister, was his complete opposite. She lived by a schedule, counted every dollar, planned vacations 6 months in advance, and had been paying off a mortgage for her small but cozy apartment for 3 years. She couldn't understand how someone could live without a safety net, without clear goals and savings. For her, happiness lay in stability, in the certainty of tomorrow, in the ability to control her life down to the smallest detail. They often argued about money, about the meaning of life, about what was more important, living for today or thinking about the future. But behind these arguments was always a concern for one another, albeit expressed through reproaches and jabs. Bogdan laughed at Alina, calling her little accountant, while she grumbled that it was high time her brother grew up. On the day everything began, they met at a small cafe they often visited together. Outside, the rain drizzled, the room smelled of fresh pastries, and 2 cups of coffee sat on the table between them, one with sugar, the other without. It seemed that this evening was no different from hundreds of others, but it was then, during a casual conversation about money and habits, that fate decided to intervene in their lives in the most unexpected way. "How can you expect me to pay for you at a cafe?" Alina scoffed, looking at Bogdan in disbelief. "Brother, are you out of your mind? You earn way more than I do. Where does all that money go?" Bogdan looked at his sister, then surveyed the cozy cafe where they often stopped and shrugged. "I just live, not save," he finally said. "I bought a new camera yesterday, and last week I flew to New York for a festival. So what? I don't regret it." Alina rolled her eyes. Her brother, a real estate agent, had always been like this. Generous, impulsive, convinced that the world owed him a smile. She, on the other hand, an economist at a large company, counted every dollar, planned vacations 6 months in advance, and had been paying off a mortgage for her apartment for 3 years. "Am I not living?" she retorted. "I think it's time for you to stop renting such an expensive apartment, hanging out in restaurants, and treating all your friends everywhere." "You sound just like Mom," Bogdan sighed. "Always lecturing me. Teaching you is a losing battle. Earning that much money and spending it on who knows what. That's just you," Alina declared. Then she paused for a moment and suggested, "Maybe you should find a girl who can help you with your finances?" "What do you mean?" Bogdan asked, surprised. "A girl who will support me? No thanks." "No, that's not what I meant. You need a girl who understands finances and can keep track of your spending. What do you think?" Alina asked. Bogdan burst out laughing. "God, Alina, you want me to date a quiet, shy little mouse? No way." Then he smacked his forehead. "I get it. Mom wants to set me up with some kind of financial witch, and you're just testing the waters, right? No. Alina frowned. First of all, not all girls who understand finances are little mice, and secondly, our mom never interferes in your relationships or mine. Bogdan pondered. You might be right. The reason I'm talking about a girl is that if you have a relationship with her, she'll take your finances into her own hands. Who wants to be broke for half a month? Let's say, that's an interesting thought, Bogdan said. But where do I find such girls? Where else? Alina's eyes widened. First of all, you work with a bunch of companies, including financial ones. That's where you should look. Then Alina smiled slyly. Imagine you all dressed up, walk into a bookstore and head straight to the shelf where they sell finance books, and there she is. You exchange glances and… Stop. Bogdan interrupted. That doesn't work. What bookstore? What shelf with finance books? I bet only students buy those books. Okay, fine. Let's try another option. You go on a dating site, start chatting with an interesting girl, ask her what she does, and she replies, I'm a financial consultant. And you realize it's fate. Or let's say I'm walking down the street, slip and fall, and she helps me up. Bogdan continued, dramatically pressing his hand to his chest. I'll say, thank you. And later at home, I'll find her business card in my pocket. Financial consultant for personal life. They both burst out laughing, drawing the attention of other patrons. When the laughter subsided, Alina sighed. Seriously, Bogdan, if you just saved at least a third of your salary, in a couple of years you could have enough for an apartment. You might even enjoy saving. But as it is, she sighed, you'll just keep living paycheck to paycheck. What if I find this financial princess? He winked. Maybe with her help we can buy a big house right away? Or 2 apartments? Alina shook her head, but the smile never left her face. You're incorrigible, Bogdan, she said. Half an hour later, Alina packed up to go home. You go ahead. I'll stay here a bit longer. Bogdan nodded to his sister. After Alina left, he ordered another coffee and, opening his laptop, began scrolling through his social media feed. The thoughts of a financial princess seemed amusing and silly, but deep down he wondered, why not? An hour later he stepped outside, where the evening air was filled with the scent of autumn leaves. Puddles were everywhere, and the wind blew so strongly that he felt like getting tangled in his coat. Bogdan took a step and stumbled, nearly falling, bumping into someone on his left. Oh! A female voice reached him. He turned and saw a girl in a gray coat, whom he had apparently bumped into, struggling to keep her bag from spilling papers onto the wet pavement. Instinctively, Bogdan caught the stack of sheets before they hit the ground. Thank you, the girl breathed, smoothing her tousled blonde hair. Something always happens to me. He handed her the documents, and his gaze caught the titles: Deposit Agreement, Account Statement, Investment Course. Are you a financial consultant? Bogdan asked, smirking to himself. After all, they had just been discussing this with his sister. The girl laughed, and there was nothing boring or calculating about her laughter. Rather, it was the laugh of someone who knows the value of money but isn't afraid to live. You could say that, she replied, tucking the papers into her bag. I work at a bank. And you? Realtor. Bogdan. He didn't even know why he introduced himself, but he extended his hand to the girl. Vasilina, she introduced herself, shaking his hand. Sorry for almost falling on you. Don't apologize. I'm the one at fault, and by the way, I should thank you. You fit perfectly into my conversation with my sister today. How so? Vasilina frowned. She said I need a girl who can teach me how to manage my finances, he explained. And here you are with papers and statements, and a business card for personal life financial consultant, she chimed in, winking. They laughed. At that moment, Bogdan was surprised. How could she know about the personal life financial consultant? Maybe she had been sitting nearby and heard everything? He felt drawn to this girl as if by a magnet. If only he had known how everything would unfold, he would probably have run away from her as fast as he could. But he didn't know that. So he just smiled, unaware that this meeting would change his life. Bogdan and Vasilina's relationship began as if someone had written the perfect script for them. Vasilina was the very mysterious blend of practicality and charisma that Bogdan had previously thought was fictional. She laughed at his jokes about financial terms, discussed movies and books, and on weekends they either strolled around the city or went to exhibitions and performances. But the most important thing was that she made his life easier. When Bogdan complained about spending too much on education, she told him about tax deductions and helped him apply for them. The same went for medications for their mother. She even helped organize a completely free trip for his mom to a sanatorium. She also supported Alina, and he loved how she approached life. He trusted her completely. Very quickly, Bogdan proposed to Vasilina, and she accepted. How can you be getting married? Alina looked at her brother suspiciously. Well, how? Bogdan was even taken aback. Just like that. We filed the paperwork and in 4 weeks we'll have a wedding. Aren't you happy? I did what you asked. I found a girl who understands finances perfectly. In reality, Bogdan was sure his sister would be happy, but he didn't see any joy on her face. Why aren't you happy? I am, Alina said. To Bogdan it seemed her voice was sad. It just happened so fast. Actually, we've been dating for almost a year. And, Bogdan raised a finger. You said yourself that Vasilina has a positive influence on me. Yes, that's true. It's just... Alina didn't finish her thought. Bogdan sensed she was hesitating, whether to share some secret or not. Just what? He asked, unable to stand all the unspoken words. I'm happy for you. Really happy. Are you going to have a wedding? Alina smiled, and Bogdan realized she wouldn't tell him what she didn't like about his relationship with Vasilina. No. We're just going to sign the papers and in the evening we'll have a small gathering, Vasilina, me, her parents, you and our mom. Will you come? Bogdan asked. Of course I'll come. Alina replied. A week later, Bogdan and Vasilina changed their minds. They threw a real wedding celebration with a financial theme. Vasilina in a stunning dress, Bogdan in a suit with a bow tie, guests in tuxedos and evening gowns that Vasilina had approved in advance. She organized everything. Flowers, music, even a cake with the inscription, "Financially stable marriage." Bogdan laughed, saying that now they were a team and would achieve everything they wanted. He truly believed it. Time passed. Vasilina moved into the apartment Bogdan had rented and made it cozier. Bogdan loved it and literally rushed home to his wife after work. Yes, there were misunderstandings and various disputes, and Vasilina didn't approve of how Bogdan handled money. But they resolved all these issues by sitting down at the negotiation table. We can't live like this. We need to think about the future, Vasilina said. Who knows how our life will unfold? Maybe we won't be able to pay rent. So we need to start saving for our own place now. Plus a child. By the way, do you want kids? She asked. Of course, Bogdan replied. So, kids are very expensive. We need to prepare for their arrival. Vasilina spoke sensible things and Bogdan agreed. Yes, you're right. How do we start saving money? He asked. Or maybe it's better to get a mortgage? A mortgage is a great solution. I would be all for it. But right now, banks want very high interest rates and there's a chance that apartment prices will drop. I would still start saving money, Vasilina replied. Okay. How do we do that? It's simple. We need to calculate how much money we need each month and leave it in a joint account, while transferring the rest to a savings account, Vasilina said. But can't we withdraw from the savings account? Bogdan asked. You can close it early, but then you'll lose interest. I think I'd definitely close it early, Bogdan laughed. Let me manage the savings account. I'll show you every month how much we've saved, Vasilina suggested. Agreed. Bogdan easily accepted. In principle, there was nothing wrong with that. They were husband and wife. And besides, when their father was alive, he always gave his entire salary to their mother, and everything was fine. Of course, they didn't buy an apartment right away. It took them several years to save the necessary amount and not just one or two. Every month, Vasilina would sit Bogdan down next to her and show him how much money they had, how much apartments cost now, what mortgage programs were available, and where she was depositing their money. Bogdan always sat with a wise expression and nodded. You understand this better than I do, he would say, kissing her on the temple. I agree, she would reply. But why am I showing you all this? So you can think about how to get the missing money faster. I plan to start taking on a few clients as an accountant. Think about what you can do. And Bogdan thought. He found new projects and brought in even more money. When the necessary amount was saved, they began saving for renovations and for a child. Alina, I'm tired. Bogdan really had lost weight and didn't look great. I tell her, Vasilina, stop. Let's take a break. Let's at least go on vacation and relax. And she laughs and says that once we save the necessary amount, we can relax as much as we want. But you know what I think? Bogdan looked questioningly at his sister. What? Alina asked. That day will never come. Because when we save what she needs, she'll find another goal for us to start saving for again. For example, she'll want to buy a summer house. No, wait. A summer home. And she'll start pushing me for a new purchase, Bogdan said sadly. You're disappointed, aren't you? Alina asked again. Very. This isn't how I imagined our family life, Bogdan smirked. Believe me, I regret meeting her, and sometimes I think about divorce. Have you talked to her about it? His sister inquired. I tried, but she doesn't listen to me. It feels like I'm just disposable to her, Bogdan sighed. It's all so sad. Stop taking on extra work, Alina said. I already have. I'm not my own enemy. And what about the apartment? Alina asked. Did you end up buying it? Bogdan sighed. We bought it. To pay fewer taxes, we registered it in Vasilina's name, he said. What taxes? Alina was surprised. I don't know. Vasilina said we should do it this way, so we did. And anyway, what difference does it make? It's joint property. It will still be split in half in case of a divorce, Bogdan waved off. I'm so sorry. It's my fault. I shouldn't have given you any advice. Maybe then you would have married some other girl, Alina said sadly. She paused for a moment and suddenly spoke with enthusiasm. Listen, I'm going to the sea with friends in 2 months. By car. We've paid for accommodation. It's a bit expensive per person and there's an extra room. Maybe you and Vasilina could join us? Talk to her. Tell her you can't take it anymore. I think she should understand. To Bogdan's surprise, Vasilina agreed to go to the sea. Only she couldn't get time off from work, so they arranged for her to fly in later, about 3 days later. However, even after 3 days, Vasilina didn't arrive. But Bogdan received a notification on the government services website that she had filed for divorce. At first, Bogdan felt nervous, but then he felt a sense of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Deep down, he was even grateful to Vasilina for making this decision, as he wouldn't have been able to do it himself. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Of course, after returning from vacation, Bogdan went straight to Vasilina. Why won't you let me into my apartment? Because it's not yours, it's mine, she said. Half of it is mine. It's joint property, Bogdan insisted. Fine, okay. Vasilina opened the door and let Bogdan into the apartment. We're still married and today I'm feeling generous. Until the divorce is finalized, you can live here. I'll stay with my mom for now. But after that, I'm sorry, you'll have to leave. I'm not going anywhere until we sell the apartment and split the money, Bogdan said, not liking the situation at all. Dear, Vasilina rolled her eyes. No one is planning to sell this apartment. And you have no claim to it. Vasilina had already changed into her clothes. She squeezed her feet into sneakers and grabbed her bag. I'll tell you again. This apartment was a gift from my mom. Or rather, my mom gave me the money for this apartment. I have a notarized gift agreement for the money. That's how it is, dear. Vasilina smirked and opened the front door. Where did your mother get that much money? Bogdan shouted after her. That's none of your business. She saved up, Vasilina replied, leaving the apartment. Is there really nothing we can do? Alina paced her small kitchen. Nothing, Alina. She asked me to give her cash. So there weren't even any bank transfers between us, Bogdan sighed. But that's not right. It's despicable. How can someone be like that? Tears streamed down Alina's face as she turned away from the window. Bogdan knew that in moments like this it was best not to touch her. I'm sure you're not the only one who suffered at her hands. Did you find out if she was married before? Maybe her ex-husband left her another apartment? Maybe you could team up and try to get justice. Alina, are you sure I should get involved in this? She knows how to play by the rules. So if she had a husband before me, everything was probably clean there, just like with me. Yes, but we have to do something. Alina wouldn't give up. Live on. We just need to live on. I'm young, healthy, I've learned to save. I've opened new horizons for earning money. I still have everything ahead of me. So I can say, thank you, God, for taking the money. Weeks passed since the day Bogdan fully realized that his life had changed again. This time, not by a script, not by someone's will, but because it just happened. He was left without a wife, without an apartment, but with new experiences that, strangely enough, didn't seem bitter to him. It felt like he had shed a heavy backpack filled with other people's expectations, plans, and calculations. In the first days after the divorce, Bogdan lived with Alina. Despite her strictness and rationality, his sister turned out to be surprisingly caring. She didn't ask unnecessary questions, didn't try to comfort him, just stayed close. Made breakfast, left notes on the table with reminders, and sometimes brought home pies from his favorite bakery. Bogdan needed that, not words but simple human warmth. "How are you?" Alina asked one evening as they sat in the kitchen over tea. "Fine," Bogdan shrugged. "Even better than I expected. I just sometimes wake up at night and think, what if this is all a dream? Then I realize, no, it's all real." "You're doing great holding up," Alina said. "I probably couldn't do it." "You wouldn't have gotten into such a situation," Bogdan smirked. "You always calculate everything." "Not always," Alina replied quietly. "I just fear making mistakes." They fell silent. Outside it was raining and the drops tapped against the window, as if someone were trying to remind them, life goes on. A week later, Bogdan rented a small one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. The apartment was modest but bright and cozy. For the first time in a long time he felt free. No one was rushing him anywhere. Work continued as usual. Bogdan started taking on interesting projects again, sometimes staying late at the office, but now it was his decision, not an attempt to earn money for another goal. He began meeting friends he hadn't seen in a long time, called his mom more often, and even signed up for photography courses he had dreamed of taking before the wedding. Meanwhile, Alina was also experiencing changes. After her brother's divorce, she began to reflect on her own life. Work, mortgage, vacation plans, all of it was important, but something was missing. She started socializing more with friends, signed up for yoga classes, and began reading books not only on economics but also on psychology. One evening when Bogdan visited her, Alina said, "You know, I was thinking, maybe we should go on a trip together? Just buy tickets and go somewhere for a week. No plans, no schedule." "You?" Bogdan was surprised. "You always plan everything." "Exactly," Alina laughed. "I want to try living differently." "Let's do it." Bogdan enthusiastically agreed. They chose a small town in the southern part of the country, bought train tickets, and set off. The week flew by. They strolled through narrow streets, ate ice cream by the waterfront, watched sunsets, and simply enjoyed life. For the first time in a long time, Alina allowed herself not to think about work, loans, or the future. She laughed, took photos, and even tried riding a bike, something she had been afraid to do before. "Thank you," she said to her brother on the last evening. "I haven't relaxed like this in a long time." "Thank you," Bogdan replied. "You've always been there, even when I didn't notice." This story reminds us that life often throws unexpected lessons our way, especially when we least expect them. Sometimes we want to find someone who will sort everything out for us so much that we overlook the warning signs. We believe promises, close our eyes to doubts, and justify others' actions just to avoid being alone. But true closeness is built not on control and benefit, but on respect, honesty, and the ability to hear each other. Don't be afraid to ask questions, don't be afraid to stand your ground, and don't let anyone turn your life into someone else's project. Love is not a transaction. It's a union of two free people. If this story made you think, share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if you relate to this topic, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. There are many more life stories ahead that will leave you moved.